Hello, cosmic beings out there. I'm Mannah, a therapeutic astrologer and interviewer. I'm passionate about learning and sharing insights on how to live a better life. I hope you'll stick around as I infiltrate the minds of thought leaders, authors, and healers from around the globe. Wherever you find yourself right now, dear listener, I want you to remember that you have a place to call whole. Now, please enjoy this episode. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to tap in to the second part with Ruthie Smith, who is the leader of the Flame Center and author of the book that we are talking about. And we had the first part of the book in the last interview together. And now this is the second part of the book, focusing more on the practices. So the book is called Energy, Soul Connection, and Awakening Consciousness, Psychotherapy in a New Paradigm. Welcome back, Ruthie.
Thank you so much for having me back again, Mannah. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so good. And I'm already excited that your internet connection is better than last time, but that's just a podcast excitement. Yes, this is going to work out. But the thing is, with our mind, when we've done something, I don't know if you have this, I have it a lot when I've said something, again, engaged in something, then I feel afterwards, oh, I should have said all of these things. I never got around to that. Why didn't I think of it? So I wanted to just give a moment here in the beginning to see if there's anything that come up for you after the last chat we had. Is there anything important that needs to be mentioned in that regard?
Yes, I think the main thing I'd like to talk about is the heart-brain coherence, which is quite well known about these days with people like Joe Dispenza and, the HeartMath setup. A lot spoken about it, but I didn't really mention it, but it's so crucial. So I would just like to talk about the importance of our hearts and our brains being in coherence. I think I sent you a picture. And if you'd like to show, the first one is of a really nice, calm, two interconnecting energy fields. Would you mind just putting it up on the screen briefly, please? And it shows two lovely interconnecting fields where it's very, very harmonious.
Yes.
And what's happening in that field is when the electrical field of our thoughts and the magnetic field of our heart, which actually is a much larger field, are in coherence. And it just makes a huge difference. That's what happens when we help to regulate one another in a psychotherapy situation. There's a co-regulation that goes on. And you can see how the field is really nice and harmonious. And for those who are listening to the podcast, just imagine really smooth energy field. Now, if you could show the next slide on the screen, this is an example. When we become very scrambled in our communications, when we become really dysregulated, and the picture shows a whole load of massive wires looking completely horrifically entangled and mixed up. And that's what the state of our being and our body is in when we're highly stressed. And of course, when we're stressed, that contributes to us being unwell, unbalanced. And the whole of energy psychotherapy is about getting us from that state of the massive wires all jangled up to the state of the first image, which was of nice coherence. And in fact, I'd like to start off with us doing some energy balancing, just as an example of how to balance our systems.
Wonderful.
So if we just put the hand under the nose like this, so we've got a few fingers, 2 or 3 fingers firmly under the nose, and then the other hand gently cradling the back of the neck. And with our feet firmly on the floor. And just feeling our energy drop down into our bodies. And I start yawning when we do this because and what this does is it helps to regulate our energy and bring us back into a state of peace and calm. And just breathing naturally and just feeling the energy settle in our body. When we're doing this, we're helping our hearts and our brains to connect. I call it soul connecting in my book, so that we're really in alignment. And you notice I'm doing this breathing, which is helping to regulate the field. And then just release your hands. And we'll just do one more where we cross our ankles and then cross our hands across our thighs and hold the tongue under the tip of the front teeth. And again, just breathing naturally, just feeling the energy sink down into the body as though you're breathing through the navel. Yawning a lot while I do this because it's just helping to release and harmonize the energy, helping the nervous system become settled and balanced, to become to a state of coherence. Okay, so if we uncross our legs now, and I just wondering whether you noticed anything doing that, Mannah.
Yes, I did. I mean, at first I thought, am I supposed to yawn like you're yawning? But then I was like, no, I have my own experience over here. And I really didn't feel like letting go of my neck because we were holding the back of our head here, and it just
Yes.
it's really nice actually.
Yes, it's very calming. It's the so-called reptilian brain. It's like giving ourselves a cranial sacral session on the back. But basically, our bodies are very powerful for illness or health. So when we're in the jangled state, we're all over the place. So our nervous system is so important. And everybody knows that stress is a potential killer. And many of us unconsciously live in stress all the time. So it's really important that we learn how to access these balanced states, which actually helps to get us in the flow of what I was talking about last time, the fifth dimension or the quantum flow. And when we calm our systems like that we're working with the autonomic nervous system, we can much more easily access these theta brain waves. They're sort of trance-like states of consciousness. And when we're in a trance-like state of consciousness, we can actually reprogram our neural pathways much more easily. So anybody can use those techniques with their clients without having any other training. You won't hurt anybody. And it'll just help to regulate. But I think one of the things that is quite interesting about people like Joe Dispenza that people may be familiar with is that our brain is like a computer, and actually 95% of our thoughts are unconscious. So we're working with this unconscious operating system. And actually, we repeat 90% of the same thoughts today as we did yesterday. I mean, it's quite shocking, really. And these become hardwired in our brain. People be familiar with this idea of what fires together wires together. And so these unconscious thoughts and feelings run our lives. So if we have a limiting belief like I'm unlovable, we'll have a tendency to manifest that, because where our intention goes, our energy goes. And as we live in a vibrational world, the frequency we signal to the universe is precisely what we receive back. So if we're putting out this low vibrational thought, like I'm full of shame and, it's not safe to relate with people because we're kind of putting out that very low frequency, and we're likely to experience not very happy experiences. So really, it's this idea that we really do create our reality with our thinking and feeling. So it's good to use our awareness as a tool. So as soon as we feel ourselves, oh my goodness, I'm in this feeling of resentment, we can transform in the moment just by choosing, oh, let's choose a feeling of gratitude. And then we can instantly transform our state of being. So really what we're talking is the power of the body. All this is held in the body. And that if we want to manifest change and stop being stuck in the past, then first of all, to be in coherence with our nervous system, just like we did just now, then we set a new intention. And it's really good to do this from the heart. It's not like a cognition, it's not like a thought, it's a heartfelt intention. If we can picture or visualize what it is and imagine it's actually happening now, and also be aware and conscious of the language we use. Because if we say something like, I'm resilient, we're kind of creating that vibration in our field. Whereas if we've got the idea in our minds, I always catch a cold at this time of the year, we're likely to do so. So it's kind of about being mindful of our thinking and feeling state, because our power of choice is an amazing agent of change. And the final point about this sort of manifesting is that when we set an intention, we also need to take action. So my current intention is I want to get fitter. And so that it doesn't, I can't just set out, oh, I want to get fitter, I'm fit. I've actually got to do things like go for a walk every day, or we have to take action. So that was just to what I feel I left out from last time.
I love it. And I love how you're integrating all of these different pathways into energy healing. And that's what we were talking about with your Sagittarius energy. That's really about, not just looking to one truth, but that's what I feel from your book, that it's a patchwork of different disciplines in a way, different methods and practices that we're talking about today. What we can actually do, like you're saying here. So I really appreciate that you're going around to different corners of this field. And Joe Dispenza, I think many have a reference point to him. He's really been successful getting this out into the public. And I think he's talking about many advanced things that many of us, I'm just going to drag other people down with me, maybe not totally get, because it's so scientifically based, but then we kind of understand the practice of it. So yeah, it's good to have, that you just take it in and try to decipher what's actually going on with that manifestation. So what you're saying is our thoughts, but also from the book here, it's our convictions, right, that are creating our reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that we can reprogram our unconscious mind. That is the amazing thing. We can change the neural pathways. We don't have to be stuck in the past. And that when we work with the subtle energy system and clear the ill cells from our bodies, actually, and then, bring in positive new thoughts and intentions, it really is transformative.
Okay, Ruthie, I want to read just one quote from, I think it's from the beginning of that second act that we are talking about today, just to set the scene. So you say that a particular feature of energy psychotherapy is that it elegantly combines attention to mind, body, and energy systems concurrently. All the components of mind are included, such as thoughts, beliefs, and emotions, as well as sensations in the body and the patterning in the subtle energy system. When therapeutic issues are explored in careful detail, this synergy of foci, not found in other approaches to psychotherapy, seems to allow an unusual depth and speed of change. So changing the subtle energies. And that's what we want, right? Because we're like, oh, all of these unconscious, subconscious convictions that are so hard to deal with. But this is the good message in your book. It's like, it's actually, sometimes it seems quite easy, right? There's some quite easy practices you can do to change things.
Yes, that's right. So,
yeah, where do you want to take us from here? Because you also say that how to get into this is by personally experiencing it, right? That makes a lot of sense. It can be hard to just talk about that. There's an actual practice. So I don't know if you have a practice. I kind of suggested on my notes to you that I would have an interest in something around energetic boundaries, but it's up to you. What do you want?
Yes. I mean, do you want me to go through a little bit about the process of transforming, or
Yes.
I mean, or do you think we've said enough about that? Because we can work in such a lot of depth. I think I'd like to say, before going into energy boundaries, do you mind if I just talk a little bit about the depth with
Yeah.
which we can use these approaches?
Yeah. Sounds
Is
good.
that okay?
Absolutely.
Because we can work with there are so many different components for clearing trauma. When I talk about clearing trauma, when we say trauma, we actually mean anything that dysregulates the body, the nervous system. So we're not talking about big trauma. We're just talking about things that trigger us in the moment, which are an indicator that there's something not happy in our body and being. And it's a very collaborative process, really, of working with this, because when we're in the therapy situation, something comes up in the moment and the client is suddenly triggered. The heart rate may go up, or they can't breathe or something. And then we follow, and they might just tap lightly on the side of the hand, and wonder what's bringing up this feeling. And just by tapping lightly on the side of the hand, often people just have an image or a memory. Oh, I'm thinking about when I was 6 years old and such happened. So it's a very collaborative process where together the therapist and the client sort of find out what needs to be worked with, and develop together a short phrase. And then we may, if we're talking about a 6-year-old, then we may need to bring a 6-year-old to work as part of the clearing. Or there may be an archetypal energy, like, the saboteur or the judge, or the critic, or these sort of aspects of ourselves that can be very powerful and really affect how we feel about ourselves. So we can find a phrase, establish perhaps a healing circle, which is just all the parts of us that need to be part of the process. And then we clear systematically all everything that's happened. So we might start off with an event. So let's say there's an abandonment trauma. You might, first of all, you clear what happened. So, when Mum was rushed to hospital, I was only 3 years old and I didn't understand. And I didn't recognize her when she returned 3 months later. That might be a phrase. Because, like, if your mother leaves you when you're 3 because she's had a medical emergency, you have no clue what's going on. And then we might clear the relational pattern. So all the times and ways that I was traumatically abandoned. So you have a really broad theme to clear. And then we get to the roots of it. So, for example, if there was transgenerational trauma of abandonment, perhaps, all the mothers in the lineage used to suffer from postnatal depression. So because of the transgenerational trauma of postnatal depression in my lineage, where all the children were abandoned by their mothers, I'm terrified when I have my baby that I'm going to suffer from postnatal depression. So that's sort of clearing it out at a transgenerational level from the cells of the body. And then there was all sorts of components that result from clearing trauma. So, if you've been abandoned, then you might have a core belief: I'll always be alone.
Yeah.
I'll always be abandoned. Or there might be another emotional kind of terror about my terror that I won't survive. Because when you're a 3-year-old and you're abandoned, everyone forgets you. It's very terrifying. And then the sort of subsequent defenses that might arise. So, Mum's been rushed to hospital. So the little 3-year-old develops a phobia of hospitals, which goes into adulthood. So you don't want to go to hospital, or a fear of avoiding committing to relationships in case you get abandoned, or it's not safe to invest in relationships because people leave you. All this whole massive, in the matrix, in the field, if you like, the energetic field, we call it the thought fields, but sometimes people refer to it as the matrix. All the all that is imprinted in the matrix. So what I think one of the things that I really like about energy psychotherapy, which, by the way, we don't need to use the word energy at all. We could just call it stress relieving techniques. For people who feel energy is a bit of a peculiar word, you know, let's do some stress relieving exercises to release the stress from your body. You know, very simple to introduce it to people. And what I really like is that the client self applies these methods. And so it's, you know, they might touch a sequence of the chakras going down the energy centers of the body, which are like neurological energy centers in each part of the spine. Or they might tap using the meridians, as in the acupuncture meridians. Or we can simply use intention alone with lovely practices like ask and receive, and all these are in the book. And all these methods are working with our subtle energy system to release the blockages held in the field so that we can clear the dense energy and bring in more light. And
Ruthie, do you want me to show that last photo you sent me, maybe?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that picture of the energy centers or the chakras, that a lot of our trauma is held in the first 3 energy centers of the body. It's the fight flight axis, where we're kind of in service to self, we're in survival mode. And when we eventually clear trauma, we can come up to the heart center, which is a much higher vibrational field, love and above, as it says in David Hawkins' scale. And from love up until the upper chakras, we're in a field of service to other. We're talking about moving out of ego into an awareness of the greater good and the whole community, which is very much an Aquarian kind of era that we're moving into, the golden age of community and cooperation. And, you know, we're getting rid of all the hierarchies, and we're the idea of cooperation and helping one another. We're getting out of that competitive era. So anyway, we work to transform, and we can clear trauma from our current life. We can clear pre-verbal trauma, including conception trauma, in utero trauma, birth and infancy trauma. We can clear attachment and developmental trauma during early life, which is fantastic when people have had very destructive early relationships or neglect. You know, we can clear the trauma of that. We can clear transgenerational and ancestral trauma, as I mentioned just now. We can clear cultural trauma, past life trauma for those who believe in that, and transpersonal trauma. So there's a because the field is infinite, it's an infinite field which gives us access to everything in the Akashic record. So our soul connects up to every memory, and this is all held in our DNA. Then we can access through energy testing or muscle testing, otherwise called kinesiology. We can energy test or muscle test. You know, the cause for this trauma has a deeper root than the present life, and energy tests are strong, and we can access the core fundamental trauma and then clear that, and it clears it out of the cells of the body. Just an overview.
Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. It's hard not to get excited about this. And then you also have to, like we said, personally experience it and feel on your own body and energy body how it can be released. And I really like how you talk about stress relief, because in these times, man, there is so much stress, and especially if you're living in the city and you're kind of bound to a job and that whole routine. There's so much stimuli. So
Yes, we live on our stress nervous systems, don't we? It's like trying to really release all of that stress. So Mannah, let's do an exercise. Would you like to find a phrase that describes, use quite a small trauma, nothing too big, that you feel comfortable bringing for us to work with now, and anyone that's listening to the podcast can imagine their own personal trauma, because what we're going to do is we're just going to use very simple words like this issue. So everybody can think of whatever they want to clear, and we'll use the phrase "this issue." But I don't know whether you want to share with me what you'd like to clear, or whether you'd like to keep it general.
Sure. I mentioned to you just before we started recording that I tend to have this critic, this very judgmental side saying your podcast is awful. You can't do this. You don't speak English well enough. You don't even complete the sentences. So I'm really critical actually about this podcast. So I feel that's relevant to mention here.
Yeah.
In it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's create a healing circle where we have all the different parts who are part of this this issue for you. So I'm sure this is actually a really good one to choose, because so many people have a harsh judge, don't they? I mean, it's so common. Me too. I put my hand up to that as well. So if we let's create a healing circle of all the archetypal energies involved. So who would you like to say? We could start off with the judge and the critic for sure, couldn't we?
Yes. Yeah.
And are there any particular ages that this applies to with you?
When you mentioned the age of 6, I felt that resonated.
Okay, so we'll have your 6-year-old, and whoever's listening to this, they can have whichever age is relevant to this. Yes. And is there a judgmental parental figure in there somewhere?
Yes, let's put him in for sure.
Okay, so is that the judgmental father?
Yeah.
Okay. And what about mother? Is mother judgmental and critical as well, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's quite hard, isn't it, when both parents are critical? So that's when we really, this is at an archetypal level, and it can feel so debilitating.
And for me, Ruthie, we can put religion in there as well.
Yes, okay. So religion and the judgmental religion.
Yeah.
And would you say that was sort of black and white thinking, that type of religion? So we can put black and white thinking in there as an archetype, where things are either good or bad. And if they're bad, then heaven help you.
Yeah, exactly. But it won't help me. You'll be in hell already. So
Oh, bless you. So there's this field of all this quite negative energy. And might there be quite a lot of shame in there as well?
yeah. I have this part. I feel it's in my jaw, and I feel like after a podcast, it will feel ashamed that I'm publishing it.
Oh, bless you. Well, let's bring in the shamed one. And I'm sure so many of us can relate to that. But by the way, just a simple exercise that anyone can do if they feel shame is just to tap on the space between the lips and the chin like that, because that's the point for releasing shame in the tapping meridians. I'm going to be yawning, but when we're releasing shame, it's good to know that in the moment we can just tap on that point, and it's actually quite helpful. Okay, so could we invite some positive parts into the healing circle?
There's a lot of positivity as well. It's like, I love doing this. This is my life calling. And so, yeah, purpose-driven work.
So we have why don't we have life purpose in the healing circle?
Yeah.
And do you want to have your higher self or your soul, or your divine self? How do you?
Divine self. That sounds good. Divine self.
Self.
Mhm.
And are there any sort of facilities like nature, or what things help to bring you healing?
Yeah. Nature, yoga.
Yeah, so we'll invite nature and yoga. And do you have any like animals or teddy bears or any things like that you really comfort? What things comfort you?
I think then just pillows.
Pillows. Okay. So we have the soft, lovely pillows that are all enveloping and warm and cozy, to create a safe space. So we could put as well the safe one. And I don't know whether you believe in guardian angels or whether your religious upbringing has been to. Do you believe could we have a guardian angel in?
Yeah, I really appreciate your question actually, because sometimes people just assume. But yeah, I think I've opened the religious doctrine up enough so that I can see there are other ways of
Yes.
interpreting a guardian angel. So a protector.
A protector, yes. So if we invite whatever protectors are helpful, I personally really like Archangel Michael, who's very, he's got a sword and fights our corner, because it can be very wounding when we go through the experience. We want to know there's someone on our side, don't we? Okay, so we've created this healing circle. We've got the judge, the critic, 6-year-old or whatever age, the judgmental father, the critical mother. We've got black and white religion, black and white religious thinking, the shamed one, life's purpose, a wonderful positive resource, and the divine self, nature, yoga, beautiful soft comforter pillows, the safe one, the guardian angel and the protector. So we're inviting all of those elements of ourself into the healing circle. It's like a personal mandala. And this mandala is in the unified field, and we're at the center of it. So when we do the energy clearing through the chakras, or stress relieving techniques, if we prefer to call it that, we can call them energy centers rather than chakras if chakras feels a bit too sort of weird. So for people that want to make this as matter of fact as possible and link with neurobiology, we can call the energy centers of the nervous system. We've created this healing circle, and we consider they're all present with us in the field. And then first of all, let's just imagine what strength of feeling you have about this critic, this issue of the critic. What number would you give it?
How strong it is.
Right now.
Is it on a scale from?
On a scale of 0 to 10, where 10 means it's really strong and 0 means it doesn't resonate very much at the moment and you're feeling quite calm.
I feel it quite physically right now because I am working with it therapeutically, and I did that just before we went on. So it's there present with me. So I feel it's an 8.
Okay.
Even though I'm comfortable otherwise, then I just feel it's very present with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the archetypal field of that energy. So let's also consider all the transgenerational elements and include those in the healing circle, all the transgenerational elements of being criticized and judged. But that's bringing a yawn. I often yawn when I do this work. So that's sort of widening out the field. Okay, so we're just going to clear any energetic blockages to this first of all by lightly tapping the side of the hand with the fingertips, saying, even though I'm struggling with this issue.
I'm struggling with this issue.
I'm being persecuted by my critic.
I'm being persecuted by my critic.
And it's deeply rooted in my body and being.
It's deeply rooted in my body and being.
Through all the conditioning I received in my early life.
Through all the conditioning I received in my early life.
From my parents and from religion.
From my parents and from religion.
I honor all my feelings and struggles about this.
I honor all my feelings and struggles about this.
And ask for help from the universe to clear this from the field.
I ask for help from the universe to clear this from this field.
And I completely love and accept all parts of me.
And I completely love and accept all parts of me.
especially my shamed self and my little child self.
Especially my shamed and little self.
Okay, so take a deep breath. How's that feeling?
It's good. It's like it's got some attention. And it's definitely lower than 8 right now in my jaws.
Okay, so I'm not apologizing. I'm explaining that I'm yawning because yawning is part of relaxing and releasing. So when I'm involved in energy work, I often yawn a lot because it's helping to clear stuff from the field. So that's completely normal. And if you yawn, or that's fine too. So no need to hold back any yawns. So I'd like you to scan your body down the central axis of the nervous system, all the different centers, and think about whether there's a particular energy center where you want to place your stationary hand.
Want to place my stationary home? Did you say that?
Hand.
Hand.
Yes, I want you to put a hand
Oh,
somewhere down the center of your body.
all right. Then I'm choosing underneath my belly. Just
Underneath your belly. Okay, so one hand there. And then put the other hand on the crown. Now, would you like to choose a particular phrase, or are you happy with just this issue?
This issue is, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Okay. So let's just say this issue. And just feel your body relaxing and releasing, and a waterfall of light flowing down from above your head and down through the central channel into the ground. Take a deep breath in, breathing in this waterfall of light, and breathing out all the stress. And then moving your hand to the forehead, just saying, this is you. Deep breath in, breathing in source light, and deep breath out, breathing out all the stress. Considering a waterfall of light is flowing down and around your body, clearing all the stress at your forehead and taking it down into the ground. And now let's go to the chin, because that's a powerful center for shame. Just saying, this is you.
This issue.
Breathing in and releasing on the out breath. Waterfall of light flowing down and around your body and into the ground. And now to the throat, moving the stationary, keeping your stationary hand on the lower abdomen, the other hand on the throat, just saying, this is you.
This issue.
Breathing in light through your throat chakra. And releasing the energy on the out breath. Imagining a waterfall of light cleansing and healing all the shame and stress and judgment held at your throat chakra. And then moving down your energy center to your heart. And again, breathing in light through your heart. This is you.
This issue.
And releasing all the stress on the out breath. All the judgment and criticism, all the stress held in this issue. And the waterfall of light flowing down through your body, filling your heart with light, cleansing and healing And it's flowing down and around your body and your energy field, and also through your energy centers and into the ground. And now moving the hand that's on your heart to just below, at the top of the rib cage, the solar plexus. So we breathe in energy at the solar plexus and releasing all the stress on the out breath. And if you have any images that are coming to your mind, allowing the light to flow in and around, any associations that arise, any images, cleansing and healing. And now we come to double on your lower abdomen. And again, saying the phrase, this is you.
This is you.
And breathing in the light and releasing all the stress on the out breath. Imagining this waterfall of light flowing from above your head. Waterfall of light cleansing and healing through your body and around your energy field. Down your legs and into the ground. And finally, one hand sitting on the base of your spine, the space between the anus and the perineum, the root chakra. So one hand sitting on your root chakra and the other holding the lower abdomen as you chose. This is you.
This is you.
Breathing in the light to heal all the trauma held at the root chakra. This root center of fundamental security, helping to bring you a sense of safety. The waterfall of light flowing down through your body and into the ground. And then when you're ready, releasing your hands.
Mm. Oh yeah, I have to get back to the interview here.
How did that feel?
It took me really deep, especially the last part actually with the root chakra.
Yes.
Because in the other chakras, to be honest, and I wanna be honest, I also had this fear and nervousness that maybe I can't do it and it's not gonna work for me. It's the classic one that comes up. Like maybe I can't do it. So I was talking to that part as well. But then in the root chakra, I was like, whoa, there's dark down here. There's something going on. And I felt, okay, now I do sense something that's important. Yeah.
Yes. And if it started at an 8, what number would you give it now, do you think?
It's difficult because it's quite present. But I think it's not necessarily because it's triggered or anything, and not that I give it leadership inside of me. It's just there with us.
You're aware that there's a process happening.
Yes, I think that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And that it's held largely in the root chakra, which is our fundamental survival. And so if there's been lack of safety and a lot of criticism, then the root chakra is going to be affected very strongly. Yeah.
Is it just like that you sit on top of your hand?
Yeah.
And then you hold wherever you wanted to place your hand on your body?
Yes.
Okay.
And so with the root chakra, I would imagine that because if there's been a lot of trauma, to really completely clear the sense of judgment or whatever, we might need to clear additional traumas about what happened around the religion or what happened around specific traumas of criticism and judgment.
Yeah, but this is, wow, this is a very potent exercise, and you call it the healing circle.
Yes, the healing circle, because we're not just how we are now, we bring to work all the fragments of ourselves, or there might be a dissociated part, there might be a child self, the archetypal energies, which are very powerful. What happens with shame and early trauma is that often the archetypal energies take over the functioning of our ego, so that rather than our ego responding, it's our judge or our critic who takes over the ego and just is really hammering away at us. So if I were working energetically with a client using this work, I would often do some exercises using active imagination with the judge and imagery scripts to really find out what the traumas were of the judge and really treat the judge and the critic. And maybe there are past life issues, like having been shamed, or sometimes people remember being pilloried in early lifetimes where they've literally been pelted with rotten eggs and vegetables. So our memory is held in the cells of our body, and the stuff comes out. Did you have any particular associations while we were clearing?
I think I wanna continue that process on my own. That's how I
Yeah,
feel so much respect for it. But I want to say to what you just said that I don't doubt that at all, because it goes so well with the astrology, the evolutionary astrology, and having to get to know one's own chart, and then okay, I can totally feel that inside of me. That's why I'm so afraid. But so astrology is in that sense a map of understanding it, and
absolutely.
and then we need the therapy to actually heal it and clear it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So it's I love that waterfall of light because it's actually very easy. And it's also through using it, people, when they use it, it's empowering for the client, because it's not something that the therapist is doing to the client. The client's doing it themselves.
Yeah.
And so as we do this work, we become more embodied, we become more in our bodies, we feel more congruent with our bodies, more resilient, we have more confidence in our bodies. So I really like it because it's not like the therapist is the master, is the therapist is just a support to the client doing the
Yeah.
work.
That's where this is in the new paradigm as well.
Yes.
We've spoken a lot about IFS on this show, and that's you have it from somewhere else, but it's also working with, like you said, the different fragments of us, parts of us. So that is a way. I was just mentioning that because that's a way of empowering the client, and that you can actually do this on your own as well.
Exactly, you can.
Yeah. So Ruthie, I want to just also get to energy boundaries.
Oh yes.
And when they're compromised, I know you have a little story of your own before a certain energy workshop.
Yeah, so I had an experience where first of all, I didn't realize for many years that I was a clairsentient. And when I was supervising in the NHS, where I worked as I supervised the work of a team. And I didn't realize I was picking up the energy of the clients through my body.
Mm.
And I especially noticed it with really when therapists were bringing supervision of very vulnerable fragmented clients or baby parts, that my body would be wanting to go out to heal these baby parts, and I would be yawning my head off, and it was embarrassing because I didn't know about my clairsentience. And then I was in a workshop with this amazing person called Patrick McCormick. I was in the States learning about energy therapy and quantum healing. And we were all in a group. There was about 30 of us in a group. And I was so grateful to him because he caught me. There was a couple doing some work, and I was literally leaving my body in empathy while they were doing this work. And he saw it and he called me out. He said, Ruthie, you've left your body. You're not supposed to be doing that. He said, you're not helping yourself or them
How
by
did you see that? He see
empathy.
that? Did he see that initially?
He was clairvoyant and he just saw it. And he saw me leaving my body. And he said, and I did some work with him about how to create my own energy boundaries after that. And then subsequently, we have a simplified version that we teach in our energy psychotherapy training course. But just to sort of say a little bit about the concept of energy boundaries. When we grow up as children, we don't have any boundaries. And it's sort of our childhood development is geared towards us learning to develop an ego in a sort of healthy way, so we can establish boundaries and make distinctions between this and that. And basically, we all know in therapy that boundaries create healthy relationships, and we need to have clarity about our needs and limits. And energy boundaries operate similarly to this, but at the level of our subtle energy, of our field, if you like. And when we've got a healthy functioning field, we're radiating out at least, several feet around us. And it's a coherent field which radiates out. And these operate interpersonally and with the wider environment. It's like that picture that I asked you to show at the beginning of those interconnecting fields that we radiate out and so do others. And when we're harmoniously interconnected in a coherent field, it all feels lovely. But when we've got good energy boundaries, it helps to maintain, if you like, the shape and integrity of ourselves as a person. And if we've got a strong, resilient energy boundaries, we can manage intrusions without taking them in. And so when we work with energy psychotherapy, it actually helps us to build a resilient ego in a healthy way and to build resilient energy boundaries.
And did you say that when it is resilient, then we can manage intrusions without taking them in?
That's right. So a healthy energy boundary is like a semi-permeable membrane. Judith Swack created this idea of using cellular biology about a healthy exchange of energy and information and emotions, which can sort of come through, but only healthily. But what happens when we've got compromised energy boundaries? So abusive behavior in early life can leave tears and holes, literally tears and holes in the subtle energy bodies. And I remember when I used to work as an energy healer before I learned about energy therapy, I used to work with the etheric field, doing subtle energy massage to actually heal the tears. You can use that through etheric massage. But these holes can contribute to wounding and overwhelm. And, we're all familiar with the concept of energy, repetition compulsion, where people repeat the same trauma and again. When we've got tears in our energy fields, it kind of attracts those same trauma to us energetically. And so another thing that can compromise our energy boundaries is when we're in enmeshed relationships, or we are, if we're in an enmeshed relationship, we struggle to individuate and become our separate person. Or we might, if we're in codependent relationships, we might either become overly caretaking and responsible for the other, or overly dependent and want the other to look after us. And then we get into victim positions and learned helplessness,
So you're saying that all of this is because of compromised energy boundaries?
We can become exhausted, burnout, empaths become overwhelmed by the thought fields of others and the collective. And without strong energy boundaries, we just get overwhelmed, basically. So how do we develop resilience? One of the really wonderful things about this work is we can do simple forms of self-care. One is simply the figure of 8, where we imagine that, I'm in one circle of the figure of 8 and you're in the other circle. And that way we're connected but separate. And we can use that figure of 8 between ourselves and in relation to the whole world. That's a really simple one, just visualizing that.
Yeah, I like that one. I remember I read that one, and so I'm glad you mentioned it. Is it that I close my eyes and imagine it? It would be useful to have when you're also interacting in a conversation. So would it be like just reminding yourself? How would you do it?
I just set the intention.
Yeah,
I just sort of do a quick vision. You have a lot of the figure of 8s. They have it on Virgin Media, and so the visualization of that is very easy. So we just imagine. It's the infinity symbol,
yeah.
and so we just imagine it. But we don't have to do it very elaborately. We can just consider it's there.
Good. Yeah.
Another one is the use of intention and positive belief. So, for example, you can imagine your field as a bubble of light and really feel it, visualize it in a bubble of light. And that's very powerful as well. We can also use an energetic shield as though we've got a silver shield, which we have over our heart, so that if people are projecting onto us, it just bounces back through the mirror of the shield. That's a nice simple one. Although I tend not to use that one because I don't like the idea that we've got to be fearful of the other. I
Yeah.
prefer the more open, a heart radiating compassion and expansion is enough protection. We don't need to kind of be going like that, because in this idea that and where we put our intention, so we create the energy of the field. If you're imagining you've got to protect yourself, then
Yeah.
you're in a fear mentality, and I prefer to work in a love mentality.
It's a good point. But you also say that many people come to you and feel invaded, and you said something around your big energy and other people feeling invaded. So we want to deal with that without making us afraid of each other, having to protect ourselves from each other in a very total sense. But we do need protection from energy that feels too much.
Yes, I prefer to use the word resilient.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
need resilience, maybe rather than protection.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah.
And yes, as you say, I mean, when my Sagittarius self is in an expansive mode, and if I'm going through a kind of new transit where Jupiter's really radiating out, I know that my energy can be quite big. And when there's a real profound transits going on, until you get used to the new energy, I sometimes struggle to titrate my energy so that I'm attuning appropriately to the other.
Mm.
And so these sort of things are important then, because the last thing I want to do is overwhelm my clients, but it is possible to do that, And equally, when I'm in my Saturn constricted mode, I'm much more likely to be really, withdrawn and not. So managing our energies is kind of, it requires our attention and awareness, doesn't it?
I love those examples. I have nothing to add. That's great. That's how I see it as well. Yeah.
Yes, and I do get into trouble with my Jupiter sometimes because I can be so enthusiastic. I'm sure you've experienced it.
I have. I have. And it is such a Sagittarius lesson, tuning, leveling your energy. Yeah, because of
Yeah,
the excitement and what you want to share. And then there can be this tendency to miss the other part, but it can be learned
yes.
for sure.
But there is an energy boundary protocol that's really simple, which is in my book on page, when is it? Page 159, I think it
So
is.
one, yes.
Um,
And
but
can we just close with that, because we're at the top of the hour? So
yes,
do we want to go through that in the end?
what do you think?
I think it's a good one to, if we can go through it,
Yeah. Okay.
not in a deep way, but just in a
Yeah. Yes.
to
Just
idea about it.
so, what I'd like to say is that when we're working with clients, the sort of summary of all of this is that we use presence rather than empathy when we're working with clients.
Yeah.
And I think it's, that's part of the energy boundaries as we develop inner resilience. And then rather than leaving our bodies and empathizing and putting ourselves in the shoes of the other, we stay really present and coherent to our own energy field. And we sit in presence, which is actually a fifth dimensional state. And then our energy, compassion and peace and calm emanate from us. And then that creates a sense of safety for the client, rather than us kind of putting ourselves in the other's shoes, which is how we were trained. But when we put ourselves in the shoes of others, or worse, take on the negative of the energy of the other in the attempt to kind of digest it and give it back to them, which is what is termed projective identification, that's actually harmful to us, because we can end up being ill, becoming sick. So we can use energy boundaries very, very simply. And just as a really simple one, can you think of, let's think of something where you feel your energy boundary is weak. So it could be, it could be weak to the mass collective when we're traveling on the underground, or when we feel invaded by, it's like overwhelming, or we might,
For sure.
Or if we do a workshop, I used to go to workshops and come away completely exhausted before I knew about energy boundaries, because I was just picking up everybody's energy. So there's a very simple protocol on page 158 to 159. I won't go through the whole thing, but we just simply imagine so let's say my energy boundary, the percentage of my energy boundary with the mass collective is, I don't know, let's say it's 50% and I want it to be 100%.
Yeah.
I would just say, even though my boundary with the mass collective, especially when I'm traveling on the tube, is 50%, and I want it to be 100%, I honor all my feelings and love and accept myself. Okay. And then there'll be a whole list of core beliefs. Even though it's not safe for me to strengthen my energy boundary, I love and accept myself. Even though I don't feel it's possible to strengthen my energy boundary with the mass collective, I love and accept myself. Even though I feel I don't deserve to strengthen my energy boundary between me and the mass collective, I love and accept myself. Even though I won't be me if I strengthen my energy boundary with the mass collective, because I'm used to thinking I'm an empath, and to be strong and resilient isn't part of my identity. I love and accept myself. So that just gives you an idea.
Yeah, good ones. Yeah. So, yeah, it's really good directing our attention to what can be blocking this from working. So you go straight to those. I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ruthie, it was so good to hear you. You are on fire.
Am I? I hope not on fire too much.
In a good way. You have the flame center for a reason, right? So
My actual energy is the energy of violet. So the violet flame is my key. I see violet when I meditate. So violet flame is really my energy.
I like that. I like all of you. I love your book. And I'm so glad that we took it in 2 sections, because there's a lot in it, and we just touched upon some of it. But
thank you so much for inviting me back again. I really appreciate having another opportunity to talk about the practices themselves.
absolutely, thank you for making us richer and so much to digest, I feel, from here, and to try out on your own. Right? Let's do that. Thank you. Be well. Be safe.
And you too. And thank you so much, Mannah. I really appreciate this.